This machine can do 0 to 100 in less time than it takes to say 2025 Porsche Taycan 4S Cross Turismo. Yeah, we'll get to performance in a sec. First, let's talk price and range, and one of these chambers of grandeur will set you back no less than, wait for it, $250,000. That's the base price. Yeah, they let me drive it. As for range, well, it'll do 617 k's on a charge, and it's also really fast, but at the risk of sounding like a complete Philistine, I'm just not sure I love it. I know, that is such a privileged thing to say. I'm not sure if this $250,000 car is right for me, but hear me out. 2 weeks ago, I had the Porsche Macan Turbo, and compared to this, well, at least on paper, this is a little bit slower. It doesn't have the same level of tech. It also doesn't look as good, in my opinion, and this isn't as good a value. So at this point, I don't know, this feels like a step down for me. Not a big step, not like when Louis Armstrong jumped off the lunar module and became the first person in the world to play the trumpet on the moon. Different Armstrong. It seems like a step down regardless. Louis, what a wonderful world. Sounds like I've got emphysema. Okay, don't put that in the video, that was crap. But let us talk tech specs of this car. It has, in terms of power, 2 electric motors, total power 380 kilowatts. If you go into launch control, suddenly it goes up to 440 kilowatts of power at all 4 wheels. That gives it a 0 to 100 time, supposedly, of 3.8 seconds. Should add though that the Macan Turbo is a little bit quicker. Just saying. Regardless, it's an impressive 0 to 100 time when you consider how heavy this car is. It's almost 2.3 tons. So moving that amount of metal to 100 k's in such a short time is still pretty damn impressive. The result of that weight though, when you're just driving around an urban environment like I am right now with the car set in normal mode, the suspension is soft, the weight is heavy, it just glides. It is the most luxurious supercar. When you're not hooning around the side streets, this thing is just an absolute Rolls Royce to drive. Although while driving in the city, as good as it is, it doesn't have 4-wheel steering. The Macan Turbo does, just saying. Speaking of comfort, let's talk room, and I am 5'10". It's an interesting fact. I'm exactly the same height as Kendall Jenner from Keeping Up with the Kardashians. There's heaps of room, like heaps of leg room, heaps of headroom. You can put the seat all the way back, you barely touch the pedals. Interestingly, same goes for the back. You'd think because this looks like a very compact, low-slung car from the outside, it would be really squishy in the back, but no. Look, there's a decent amount of headroom, there's a decent amount of legroom. Also, there is a middle seat which you can use if you're a contortionist or you just generally like discomfort, and I can still fit in there. My head's still not touching the ceiling, although it's not really something I'd recommend doing sitting in there. In the back there, in terms of space, there is that transmission tunnel hump that looks like it belongs in a combustion car. I don't think that helps at all. The Macan Turbo doesn't have that. I mentioned it's a low-slung car, right? Well, that makes it difficult to get in and out of. Let's be honest, if you are of Porsche buying age, you're going to want something that's easy to slide in and out of, and this is not it. Not only are the seats really low to the ground, but also the size of the sill between the edge of the seat and the edge of the car, you've got like 20-30 centimeters you've got to slide sideways into, so there is no graceful way to get in. You will be making old man noises regardless of your age. The Macan Turbo was easy to get in and out of. On the subject of comfort though, it is a very comfortable car as you'd expect. The interior is also well noise proofed. I've got ventilated seats in both the driver and passenger. Both are also heated. It just is a very nice place to be. And also I want to point out, the smell in here feels posh. You know, it feels like a real upmarket furniture store. This is basically a Nick Scali store on wheels. Let's talk space though, and this car has a reasonable amount of room, as you'd expect, because it's a station wagon. Pop the boot, which can be done just by waving your foot underneath it, and suddenly, look at that, 446 litres of space in there, which makes it easy to do the Mafia test. There's also useful stuff like there's cargo hooks and elastic straps to hold your luggage in place. Of course, if you lift up the boot floor, there is also a little bit of extra storage under there, which is handy for potatoes or charging cables. And if you need more, drop the seats down. Look at the amount of room you've got. I didn't think I'd actually be able to lie down fully, but you can, and not only that, your head doesn't even hit the seats. You can actually take your Taycan 4S Cross Turismo camping. But if you need more storage, don't worry, I got you sorted. With the push of a button on your remote, you can pop open the bonnet to reveal a fartment or front compartment. However, as you saw, you do have to lift the bonnet manually, whereas on the Macan Turbo, it is all automatic. Just saying. Let's move on to gadgets now, starting with what is right in front of me. We have, right here, the main display, a touch screen, which controls pretty much everything in the car. I also have this display here with a touchpad. This little section down here also controls this section. For some reason, it seems like the designers at Porsche in Germany thought, well, we have this spare space here, why don't we put something in there, like a touchscreen, yeah? I don't know why, every time I attempt a German accent, it goes really camp. Don't think it's really necessary. I was going to say the Macan Turbo didn't have it. As for what's right in front of me, I have this beautiful curved display with all the information a driver could want. I've got my battery information, I've got maps, I can change what I want to see here, my consumption, the music playing, the battery temperature, anything you'd want to know. Also, got a little stopwatch up here. How cool is that? Now, while there is a lot of touchscreeny stuff in here, there is also a lot of buttons, albeit haptic feedback buttons, so they're not real buttons. You still have to take your eyes off the road to pinpoint exactly which button you're pressing. You will be happy to know that there are voice commands, but do they speak Gavin? Let's find out. Hey Porsche, turn on seated heats.
I have switched on the seat heating.
As for Android and Apple connectivity, yes, it's got androgynous auto, it's got Appalachian CarPlay. However, the place to put your phone is weird, it's in here. You've got to pop this open, and this is one complaint I have, is that this doesn't stay open. That's really annoying. You can jam your phone in there just. Now, if you don't want to use Apple or Android maps, don't worry, it has its own maps built in. Plus, on the passenger side, you see that empty blank space there? Well, by just spending a couple of $1,000s, you can turn that into a display which can control your music if you're a passenger, or perhaps show a compass or something. It doesn't really do anything, there's not really a point to it. This one also has a Bose sound system, which it sounds okay. It's got heaps of speakers dotted around the car. It's not bad, but I'm just saying that the one in the Macan Turbo I had, well, that had a big bassy subwoofer in the boot. It just sounded a little better. The thing is, this is a Porsche, right? So the list of optional extras you can get on this car is enormous. If I were to list all the optional extras you can get for this vehicle, this video would be longer than all 3 Hobbit movies and just as boring. For example, this roof above me, this glass roof that covers the entire car, lets in a lot of light, well, you can turn that into a shaded illuminated panel. Yes, it's an optional extra, it costs a lot of money, but you can do it. Same goes with that Porsche badge on the back of the car. You want that illuminated? That is an optional extra. You can do it. You want it blue? That's a different option that you can have. The list of optional extras is enormous. Let us move on to design now, and they have changed the look slightly compared to the previous model of 4S Cross Turismo. It still looks very similar. They've only changed some plastic panels, and they've put different headlights on it. It also still looks like a very sporty station wagon. For better or worse, it is definitely a station wagon, albeit a very sleek, low-slung station wagon. Now, you may watch this and love station wagons and think that this is the best looking Porsche ever to be built. I'm kind of inclined to disagree. I think station wagons just look like hearses for groceries. I am being cheeky for comic effect. The fact is that station wagons are very versatile things. They may not be for me, but they are versatile. I would still probably take the Macan Turbo over this. As for interior design, I mean, it's very posh, it's very upmarket in here, but it is very busy. There's a lot of stick-on bits, a lot of changes in textile and fabric, and things are quite bulky. I guess that makes it look kind of tough, but it also makes it look kind of, well, I don't know, Fisher Price. That being said though, if you don't like any of the colors or textures, this is a Porsche. You can change it. In fact, if you look in the Porsche studio, you'll be surprised. Look at the different paint colors, the different fabrics, the different interior colors you can get. You can get this, believe it or not, in brown. Yes, you can get this in a beautiful coffee colored brown, which when I come to power, that will be a mandatory standard option for all vehicles. But enough about design and gadgets. Let's see what this thing handles like on the open road as a cruiser and what it's like in the corners. We are doing 99 k's an hour right now, 100 now, on coarse chip road. And as you can hear, it's one complaint I have is that it is quite loud on New Zealand's coarse chip roads. And this is a big problem with all German cars, because in Germany, they don't have coarse chip roads. They've got all those EU funds to make beautiful, smooth tarmac. We don't have that luxury. It's a bit noisy. That's also because it's got massive tires on it. Look at the size of the tires on this thing. Despite the road noise, it is a very comfortable car. Good Lord, this thing's comfortable. I've got this thing on normal mode right now, and it just floats. Honestly, I've just put about 300 k's on the odometer on this car, and every single kilometer was glorious. I'm halfway to 88 right now, and I got out of this car after 4 hours of driving, and I just felt normal. Like, There's no aching knees or anything, no aching back. You just get straight out, you feel refreshed. One interesting thing I noticed while I was virtually designing this Porsche on the Porsche website is that you can get a smoker's package, which is basically just a $100 ashtray that plops into this front cup holder. It's a bit of a waste of money, but it is just weird that you can still buy a smoker's package. Although it's still much cheaper just to not smoke. Same goes for, well, not drive combustion. They're both dirty, expensive habits. So why not just get one of these and plug it in at home off your solar panels? In fact, that's a good excuse for a plug for Ecotricity. It is New Zealand's only certified climate positive electricity provider, wind, hydro, solar. That's where all the electricity comes from Ecotricity. No gas, no coal, nothing dirty or expensive. It's all renewable, it's all clean, and it's all really affordable. Sign up at ecotricity.co.nz. What are you waiting for? Your kids will thank you, as will their kids. But first, let's do the 0 to 100 time. I've had this car for 2 full days now. I've been driving it for 2 days and I still haven't put my foot all the way down. I'm going to drop it into Sport and then Sport Plus. Are you ready? Here we go. Let's see what this is all about. Road's empty. Here we go. Launch control activated in 3, 2, 1. Whoa! Far out! Oh, that was glorious. Oh, that's fun. Oh, that was quick too. Just going to say, the Macan Turbo is just a little quicker though. All right, now let's see what this thing's like in the corners. Let's give it a go. Oh, yes, this is it. This is what we're talking about. The first thing you notice, now that I put it into Sport Plus, is the suspension's firmed right up. Despite that, it's still not quite as rock hard as a Tesla Model 3 performance. That sort of jars you to your bone. This still has a little bit of give, but it does an amazing job of masking its weight, because by all accounts, this is a big, fat, heavy car, but you'd never know. It masks it so well. That is testament to the designers at Porsche, how they've managed to make it feel like a light, nimble sports car, even though it is chonky. It's kind of like it's wearing the automotive equivalent of those giant panties that wrap around, you know, those Bridget Jones style undies. Somehow, this car is wearing Bridget Jones undies. Another thing this car has that's very unusual is a 2-speed gearbox on the rear axle. That makes it very handy for acceleration, but it also means once you get over about 80 k's an hour or so, it drops into high gear, which is great for going very fast on the German Autobahn. Here's a nice little ziggy-zag, a dog's leg. Oh, look at that. Oh, that is magnificent. Maybe this is just as good as the Macan. It's hard to say. Come on, Porsche, would you please make a rubbish car? Make my job easier? Why is the steering wheel getting warm? I think I've just turned on How have I turned on the steering wheel heater? Why is my wheel hot? I didn't say anything, did I? Okay, one thing I don't like, however, is that it has lane centering turned on. This is ridiculous. It's trying to push me towards the line when I'm trying to cut the corners, because it's a narrow street. So I'm just going to hold this button down, turn off the lane centering. There we go. Why is the steering wheel hot? Bottom line is this car's got pretty much everything you can want, including a very hot steering wheel, but there is much more to discuss in terms of gadgetry, in terms of design, and in terms of charging speed and efficiency. So without further delay, let us do the spud score. Turn off the heated steering. Why is it on? I don't even know how I turned that on. Starting with performance, and it gets 9 out of 10 spuds for very, very obvious reasons. Next is handling, and I'm giving it 10 spuds. It is a very heavy car, but it feels light and agile. The engineering is just mind-blowing, so well done, Porsche. As for comfort, a very respectable 7 spuds. The seats are great, the room in the back is much better than you'd expect, but it's not the easiest car to fall into each day. As for efficiency and range, 7 spuds again. On the open road, it consumed around 19 units of electricity per 100 k's, which is very good considering its weight. It means that with normal Kiwi driving, in other words slowed down by caravans and trucks, you should be able to get 550 k's on one charge and close to 600 k's with city-only driving. Gadgetry's next, and I'm giving it 7 out of 10. It's got everything you need, although it doesn't have vehicle to load, something many EV brands now offer. Value's next, and well, come on, it's $250,000. I mean, even if I could afford it, I'd probably still take the Porsche Macan Turbo instead, which has more of, well, everything. As for the 4S Cross Turismo, I'm sorry Porsche, but I can only give it 2 tubers. Next is charging speed, and I took it to one of ChargeNet's many hyper-rapid chargers, and I plugged in with just 6% left in the electric tank, and it hit 130 kilowatts, which is, it's alright, but I knew it could do more. In fact, so did the car. So I unplugged and tried a different charger, and holy spuds, look at the difference. It ramped up to 250 kilowatts and stayed there until 70%. This means that you can charge this car from flat to 80% in just 22 minutes. That is genuinely impressive. That gets 10 spuds. Style's next, and I gave it a hard time for comic effect, but it is a very stylish wagon, and it turned heads every time I drove it, so it's doing something right. I'm giving it 6 spuds for the wow factor alone. But is it fit for purpose? Well, no and yes. I sometimes get the feeling it's trying to tick every box possible, but there are some minor complaints that would make daily use a bit annoying, like the fact you have to fall sideways to get into it, and even though it's a really tactile driver's car, you still have to use the touchscreen to adjust the vents, even though they're right there in front of you. And don't get me started on that weird pointless touchpad thing, it's about as useful as me. Having said that, in terms of hauling the family and comfort, it drives sublimely in normal mode. It may not be able to tow anything despite its massive power, but it does have loads of room in the boot and storage up front, so overall I'm giving it an above average 6 spuds. But it's PSC that matters most, and I've got bad news. In between its microscopic center console, its awkward front storage tray, and its small and hard to access glove box, I could only squeeze 31 potatoes into its dashboard. The Macan Turbo, however, well, that took 64, I'm just saying. Which means the total spud score for the 2025 Porsche Taycan 4S Cross Turismo is 66. There you have it. Those are my worthless thoughts on this, the Porsche Taycan 4S Cross Turismo car, almost as long as its name. It is really a remarkable piece of engineering. I know I'm making fun of it because I'm not really digging the styling. It is still a station wagon. I don't love station wagons. They kind of look like, well, kind of like automotive mullets. A cool mullet, I'll give it that. It's a very good looking mullet. It's like when Chuck Norris had a mullet, but it is still a mullet. That being said, if someone were to hand me the keys to either this or the Macan Turbo that I had 2 weeks ago, I would probably still choose the Macan Turbo because it's got everything this has and just a little bit more.